Tonight's Cooperation Live is going to be on social care, which we think at the Cooperative Party is a really interesting way of delivering social care, which puts service users, workers and their families at the heart of provision and gives them greater control and ownership over the services which they receive and provide. Tonight, we're going to hear from two innovative social care cooperatives, one based in West Yorkshire and the other based in Suffolk. Before I introduce this evening's speakers, I'm just going to start off with a very few quick tips on how to make this more interactive for everyone. The first is for those who are hard of hearing, you need to enable the live captioning for this event. And this can be done by pressing the CC icon on the bottom tools panel of your phone or computer. This session is also going to be recorded. So if any members don't want to be on video, please just turn off your camera and go on to audio only. And it's also going to be made available on the Cooperative Party's YouTube channel, so you can rewatch or find it later. In order to prevent disruptions, we're also going to have the sound enabled only for those who are speaking. And regarding asking questions in the Q&A, there's two ways you can ask a question. The first is by putting any question or comment you have in the chat box, which will be moderated and we'll pick them up. And the second is by raising your virtual hand, and we'll come to you when it's your turn to speak. Finally, please bear in mind the cooperative values and principles when contributing. As I said, the Cooperative Party is really interested in these new ways of delivering social care. Social care cooperatives are not for profit. They help to prevent profit leakage, and they can be delivered in any number of ways. But the two main ways is by through user-owned cooperatives, which really empower the service recipients, and also through employee-owned cooperatives, which are a great way of providing care providers with control over the services they provide, better conditions and better pay. And at this time of social care being dominated by private equity, we need to promote these new ways of doing things to ensure that our social care system really does deliver the care needed for people right across the UK. Now, without further ado, I'm going to pass over to the first of our speakers this evening, which is Emma Back, the founder of Equal Care Co-op based in Hebden Bridge, West Yorkshire. So I'll pass over to you, Emma.
Hi, everyone. I am going to start my video very briefly. I apologise for my current location, which is King's Cross and Pancras. So I will do my absolute best to ensure that that I'm clear and that the connection is okay. So I am going to stop my video so that I can hear you. And Dan, please do jump in if I start to break up, or if I don't catch any questions from the group. But it is a real honour to be with you all, and I apologise for my very transient status. Okay, so Equal Care Co-op started in 2018, and we were set up to deal with the problem of power in social care. The people giving and the people receiving are subject to exploitation in all sorts of different forms. I have no doubt that many of you here will be aware of those, but just to tell you about one example, in fact, that I heard about today. There is a certain London council, and this is kind of endemic across London and across the country, that has capped its PA rates at a rate that is completely unsustainable for enabling the people receiving that support to pay pension, to pay sick pay, or to provide for holiday without needing to source unpaid care from family in one way or another. So there is a deep issue at the heart of social care, which points to kind of lack of funding and lack of priority from government for many years. at local level and at national level. So our approach has been, let's work with what we've got, let's work with what we can control. And that is the way in which an organization can support that giving and receiving relationship. So the way that we are set up is to prioritize and enable that giving receiving relationship to flourish. When you join Equal Care Co-op as someone looking for support, you would join as a team owner. So we're here to help you choose the people that you want to join your team of people supporting you. And that can be paid workers, that can be family, that can be friends, that can be other organizations, private PAs, other agencies. And everybody kind of works together on the digital platform that we're building to coordinate that support. The person receiving support is on there, family members are on there, and the development of the team comes about through certain processes to distribute roles and responsibilities. So it's a very, very relationship-centered way of working. Every single team is different. Every single team has got a very different balance of roles and responsibilities within it. So an example of one role might be holding the rota and responsibility for the rota, or it might be holding responsibility for keeping the support profile up to date. So we're moving a lot of the tasks of social care that are traditionally kept in the office and kept in the province of the care coordinator or the rota coordinator, who then, tries to please everybody and pleases no one, and moving those powers into the province of the team and the people who are doing that work and the person who is receiving that support. And simply by building our entire cooperative around that premise, kind of from the core governance model through to the day-to-day, through to the digital kind of applications, we have seen some really incredible results and really incredible outcomes from this. So our turnover of frontline care and support workers is 4% compared to an industry average of 38%. And that's from a pool of 50, by the way, so that just to give you a sense of our current size. And the care and support that people have received is that they will get much more consistent relationships, support relationships from people that they know for a much longer period of time. So in a normal agency, you might get one care worker supporting 40 people over the month. And at Equal Care, you would be supporting maybe 4. So our average kind of number of teams that our care and support workers join is 5. And the majority of people who've joined us are actually just in the one team. What's been really lovely over the past few years is seeing the model develop and flex. So it works at a very, very preventative level. And that's really the pilot that we're running in London with the Mayor's Office, the London Office of Technology and Innovation, which is much more on the preventative side. So still using the Teams model, but the membership is made up of community volunteers, anchor organizations, and sorry, my phone's gone funny, a real cross section of community-led organizations and individuals, and then and that might just be sort of a few hours a week of support. It might just be kind of running a couple of errands for somebody. It might just be kind of going around and having a cup of tea. But then this runs all the way through to really complex care nurse-led kind of NHS commissioned support with people with kind of complex and multiple health and care needs. So the flexibility simply of this structure and ensuring that we're building ourselves kind of around it to enable it has been kind of quite remarkable. One key thing on the workers' side is that, well, we're a real living wage employer, and so yeah, we're a real living wage employer, which, by the way, is completely unsustainable to do in London, in particular, at current rates of pay that councils are paying, which is lower than in Yorkshire, by the way. About £1.50 per hour lower in Yorkshire in key North London councils and South London councils. So that's, and then we employ people on a salaried basis. There's a range of hours of billable hours, in effect, that we ask them to do as part of that contract. But the idea is that it is a secure, it is a stable wage, it is an amount that you can rely on every month. And then there is also the option of joining us as an independent worker. So that's where you set the hourly rate. You still have access to all of the protections around our policies and our procedures and so on. But your hourly rate is kind of commensurately higher to account for the fact that, you know, you're not being paid for your holiday or your travel time. So just to give you a sense of the spread, most of our independent care workers are earning around £18 an hour. And our employed care workers are at the wage rate of £21,255 per annum. That's for a full-time role. And that equates to kind of contracted hourly rate, not the care hourly rate, but the contracted hourly rate of £10.90 an hour, real living wage. So yes, it's still early days. We have built the model to be scalable, but really not in a cookie cutter way, as I'm sure you would expect and appreciate. So we're seeking kind of local autonomy at scale. So with the platform there as kind of the enabler of local circles being able to start in their areas to deliver that care and support, but really to stay in charge of their destiny and decision making, both at the care and support level through teams, but then also at the kind of strategic level through our circle structure. Yeah, I think I'll stop there if that's all right. Sorry, I'm not quite sure how long I've spoken for, but I would really appreciate maybe some questions, or we can move on to leading lives. I really hope everyone was able to hear me.
Yeah, thank you very much, Emma. That was a very good and informative presentation in what I think is fairly challenging circumstances of King's Cross. Just thinking about the way this can work, because Emma has to leave us at I believe 22:07. Maybe best to give her the option to respond to questions and then come on to yourself, Lucy, if that's all okay. So I'll just ask for questions now to Emma. Already I've seen a few hands go up, so Jonathan and Sarah, if you'd like to ask your questions. Jonathan, I'll come to you first, and then yourself, Sarah.
Thank you very much. I don't live too far away. I live in Leeds. My interest is that my partner, who died just 6 months ago, was in receipt of a care from any number of care companies over the years. I was wondering whether this kind of model that you're talking about, Emma, just operates with them. Does it have to be within a particular range of a number of clients? So no fewer than, but no more than. I wonder what the limits were.
So there is, thank you, Jonathan, and I'm sorry to hear about the loss of your partner. There is a sweet spot, yes. So because we worked at social care is a very slim margin business anyway. So home care itself is a very, very narrow margins. So we operate on the basis of we need to hit a certain scale before any one area becomes sustainable. And that point is actually significantly higher than your average kind of dom care business model. So in Calderdale, it's we've actually hit it, but it's when you get to around 50 and above workers, and then a good number for the borough size that we're aiming at for Calderdale is then double that, so around 100 parent support workers. They're not all in one kind of organizing group. So they are sort of split into local circles, which is an area by area basis. And then it's those circles that have the responsibility for enabling teams, so we say, to start, to flourish and to finish. So everything that teams is outside the remit of equal care teams, really. The way in which circles can grow is where we sort of work to sociocratic principles. So if one area gets too big, then it splits. If it gets too small, then it combines. It's quite a fluid kind of way of working.
Thank you very much for that, Emma. I'll ask Sarah to come in and then we'll get Mike's question and then come back to you after those two questions. So Sarah, over to yourself.
Thanks, Dan. So I'm responsible for social care in Leicester from a political perspective, and I'm sure I'm not the only councillor on this who has sat and quickly emailed officers going, this might be one of the answers. So it's really, really exciting to have the opportunity to hear about it. The question is it just you, or have you got a team of people that can come and talk to us and others about what you're doing? Because we're about to be at the stage of recommissioning our dom care services and are going through the consultation process. And I'm listening to this thinking, I really want this to be part of the offer that we are thinking about for our communities. It sounds really, really exciting.
Thank you, Sarah. I'll just get one from Mike and then hand over to Emma again.
Yeah, hi, Emma. I'm still a bit confused what it is you do. Is it an agency run by the employees, or is it?
It's that we're a multi-stakeholder cooperative, so we're owned by people who do the work, but also we have supported and advocate members as well, and investor members for the community share kind of capital raising side.
Okay, all right.
And then it's care and support at home in the broad kind of sense. So yes, would fall into the category of agency for the purposes of commissioning and that kind of thing.
But run by the employees, owned by the employees, or?
Well, we're a multi-stakeholder, so the ownership is across our member groups. So one group of those is the employees and the independent workers and volunteers. So it's anyone who is contributing their labour who then has the right to become a worker member. And there's representation on our board as well of those membership categories. And then it's the same for supported members and advocate members who are kind of friends and family who can join if the person who's getting support lacks the capacity to be able to participate in membership.
Okay. And most of the funding comes from, your income comes from what, council contracts, or?
Yeah, the majority is from public sector type contracts, so also continuing healthcare, direct payments, and then we're also on two of Calderdale's frameworks for home care and outreach.
Okay, right. Thanks a lot.
Yes to Leicester. is the short answer. It's not just me. We are still a small team, as you would expect with a small but growing cooperative. So yeah, there's me and a couple of colleagues. So yes, we would absolutely be able to do that, and would love to.
Thank you, Emma. I see another one from Hilary. I'll ask Hilary to come in.
Hello, Emma. I think sort of answered one of my questions. I'm finding it, I love the notion, the idea of circles and teams, and I can imagine these teams working together, you know, really well. What I want to know is really what kind of holds it all together. What's the sort of glue of all these little circles? I've got this image of lots of little circles of teams all working together, and then in needing something to hold it together, how it works in practice when everybody is a share. There must be some kind of central administration, something that's managing the whole CQC requirements. Just find it's complex. It's more complex than just an ordinary agency. And I'm wondering if it's something to do with the way the digital platform works.
Yes, I would say that it is more complex behind the scenes, but it feels simpler for the people that actually matter. So
yeah, I know that, but I'm trying to think. I'm thinking about if you wanted to set it up, or imagine how you can set it up as a cooperative. How do you do that? It is complex behind the scenes. This is the problem.
Yes, it is. So yes, part of that is the platform, which is entirely built to facilitate this way of working, and to support as much coordination and decision making to take place within the teams as is feasibly possible. We are a regulated provider, so yes, we absolutely have to have a registered manager. We need to tick all of the boxes that CQC require us to do. I mean, we couldn't deliver complex healthcare without that. But the coach, so the registered manager or coach, which is where kind of I think we see some of our similarities with the Bruitzorg model. So they are there to support circles and then also for solving problems and assisting kind of with teams. So this is things like safeguarding. This is all sorts of the problem solving side of it. So yeah, that's kind of where that layer sits. But there's quite a few sort of very prevention oriented places kind of before you get to that stage.
So it's like as if
but yes, when we have
you have a central kind of
and we have another kind of yes, so there are other sort of shared functions as well, you know, so the bookkeeping, like we don't outsource that to teams. And where it makes sense to have a shared resource, there is a shared resource.
So like training. Training
is a funny one because it depends on the team. So there are some teams that have named training coordinators. Those are usually the teams that have more complex support or where people are, for example, kind of has specific physio routines and things like that. And then, yes, and then we have a couple of people who have responsibility for the mandatory training that everybody needs to do, and keeping that going. And then for helping people to move, so the manual handling side as well. Yeah, that's on a per kind of location basis rather than per team.
Right. And can I just finally ask you, what makes it a co-op rather than a CIC or a profit? Is it a fully fledged co-op? Or is it a CIC or a...
Oh, yes. No, we are not a CIC. No, no. We are very much a cooperative society We went through all the pain with the FCA. It took 3 months to get registered. I have a whole set of presentations about that. But no, we're a cooperative society.
From the beginning.
As a multi-stakeholder. From the beginning, yes. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Kumud, would you like to come in?
Hello there. I work in social care, and my question is, how I understand that like a worker could join your cooperative, so part of their pay is going to be dividends or whatever the cooperative give, and part of it is going to be perhaps a day rate or an hourly rate. What's the advantage for workers to join that? Is what I'm really trying to work out.
Well, this is the thing with so I actually started a session at Co-ops Congress a few weeks ago saying that it is not enough just to be a cooperative and then think that that's the solution. It is a brilliant starting point, but it is absolutely not the be all and end all of responding to a problem as complex and as severe as social care. Workers do not, we're still far too small to be in a position to distribute dividends at this point. So it is all very much wage focused. The key things that attract people to us is around the choice and control that you have in your day-to-day livelihood. So instead of being given your rota, you can design it with support as well. And instead of being assigned the people you support and then being taken off and put back onto other people, then you as a worker make the choice to support that person. So, and that's kind of already huge compared to the way that it's usually done, just on a day-to-day level. And then also with the employment conditions and the ability to make an informed decision about whether to be independent or whether to be employed, also is also part of the draw. And then because I will give co-ops some credit, there is a very strong integrity. Like people who join us join Equal Care because they can see that the integrity of what we do and how we're built runs through us from beginning to end. So there is no suspicion of funneling profit elsewhere. There is no kind of the trust is already so much higher than it is in the vast majority of agencies which are entirely profit led.
Thank you, Emma. I'm just going to take one more, Philip, and then I'll ask Paul if you can provide your question later on to Lucy. So Philip, if you want to come in now, and then we'll move on to Lucy after that, once Emma's responded.
Thank you, Dan. Excuse me. Good evening, everybody. I think we're going round in circles a little bit. This last 3 or 4 years, I became involved in the Colne Valley Care Cooperative, which is based in the Kirklees area, Huddersfield area. And the mainly ladies who set up the care cooperative, they first of all, they had a share launch, which I am a shareholder, minimum of £50. So they established some capital by having a share launch. Then they recruited a number of ladies to become employees as well as shareholders in the care cooperative. And when they got sufficient capital to launch the care cooperative, providing domiciliary care, they had negotiations with the Kirklees Council Social Services Department, who awarded them contracts to provide domiciliary care for clients in that particular area. So they've been going now for a couple of years now, I think might be longer, but the employees get a minimum of an hour per client. They get slightly above the minimum wage. They get, did I say, roughly an hour per client. They are a cooperative. They're not a community interest company. They are a fully fledged cooperative, and they're providing domiciliary care for their clients. They do other things apart from just nipping in. They do shopping. They go to the doctors, get prescriptions. They look after the gardens and other domestic functions. But they have sufficient capital. They employ quite a few girls now while they're being established. And they hopefully, when they're in profit, they will make a small dividend. And it's far different to what we get at the moment with domiciliary care, when all these hundreds upon hundreds of private care companies providing domiciliary care for 15 minutes here and 15 minutes there. And not only that, the care cooperative, they provide a block insurance for the ladies, for their car insurance and so forth. They are registered with the Care Quality Commission. And quite frankly, it's working. And if it can work in the Colne Valley, it can work everywhere in Great Britain. And they're more than willing to offer advice and assistance to anybody who wishes to consider that kind of project. There's nothing to worry about. It's not easy, but they have achieved it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Philip. I'm going to pass now over to Lucy for her initial presentation, and then we'll go into Q&A with her. Thank you very much, Emma, for all those questions.
Yeah, just
fantastic.
to say we don't just on a gender point, which I do feel compelled to raise. Sorry, Philip, after listening to that. We also employ men, and it is absolutely fine and very welcome to employ kind, compassionate men to give care and support, and we employ women as well, obviously. So yeah, just to really consider preconceptions that people have around who does care. It is not just women, it is men, fantastic men as well. Thank you so much, all of you. I will stay on the call, but I'll go on mute, and yeah, really looking forward to hearing from you soon.
Thank you, Emma. Thanks very much. I'll pass over to Lucy now. Thank you for being so patient with us, Lucy.
Oh, no, that's fine. So Leading Lives is slightly different. We have a slightly different story to Equal Care Co-op. So we began trading in July 2012. We were one of the first public sector mutuals. So we established ourselves as an independent organisation through a programme of divestment from the local authority. Our founder, Tony, retired last year. And when Tony retired, I took over as managing director. So we do have a hierarchical structure, but we are set up as an industrial and provident society. And obviously since then registered as community and benefit cooperative and community benefit society under the Act change. So we are an employee-owned worker co-op. We are also a social enterprise, and we have multiple hats that we can put on at any one time. So for some audiences, employee ownership is much more important to talk about, and for some audiences, the co-op element or the social care or the social enterprise element. So we left Suffolk County Council in 2012 with no real experience of running an independent business. We came out of the local authority with an asset of £5 and a block contract to continue to deliver savings back into the local authority for 3 years. So that was our deal that we came out with. We decided to set up as a co-op because through the divestment programme, the feeling of the divestment team was that our asset was our staff, and to set up as an employee-owned co-op was promoting the value that we felt we had in the staff. So 11 years old now, we look back at those times and we forget how tough that experience was. It's hard to set up a business, to transfer overnight about 400 staff out of a local authority, to change a mindset of a massive amount of people from that bureaucracy of working in local authority to the freedom of working in a co-op. But today we can celebrate that we're successful. We've had 11 good years. We are really well recognised. We've won national awards as a social care provider. So through that time, we've grown, our business has changed. We've created new services for the people of Suffolk. So we retained our core purpose of being a social care provider, specialising in providing support for adults with learning disabilities and autistic people. But we have diversified and widened that customer base to other people with social care needs. So we've invested almost £200,000 into community projects since we formed in 2012. We have a community benefit fund that allows investment back into the community the years we have a surplus. We also have distributed almost £500,000 to employee members on a shareholder bonus scheme since 2012. We have about 90% take up of our eligible employees signed up as shareholders of the organisation. So obviously Co-op Principles is open and voluntary membership. We ask people to sign into the membership rather than give them that as a sign out option. We offer 5 main services in Suffolk. So we have supported housing for people with learning disabilities. We provide a personal assistance service that offers one-to-one support in individuals' homes and or in the community. That's quite diverse, but the main purpose of that is for people with learning disabilities or autistic adults. We have daytime activities from our community hubs. We have short break services from our respite centres, and we have some dedicated social work interventions that we do on behalf of the local authority. So we undertake annual reviews for people with learning disabilities, and we also do prevention and enablement work for people who are either at risk of a crisis, in the middle of a crisis, or just need to do something different with how they're spending their time or living their life. So our board is made up of all employee owners. We are about to advertise for the first time for independent non-exec directors to sit on the board. We have a shareholder council, which is all employee owned. There's opportunities for the employees to share their views, the views of their fellow colleagues on organisational incentives, general feedback on the organisation, ideas, suggestions, things that they feel the organisation needs to do better with or to think about. So that general strategic development is really led by our employees. So we have around 420 employees at the moment. So we have grown and shrunk since we've been out of the local authority. So we deliver services across the whole of Suffolk. So Suffolk's quite a rural county. And like I say, we have about 90% take up of our eligible members. So we do work to the real living wage principles, and we do not pay lower than the real living wage. Our aim is to be, that social enterprise that trades for that social purpose. We don't create profit for any purpose other than investing back into the organisation or the people that work for us or the community that work around us. And like I say, we see our employees as our most valuable asset. They are there to carry out our purpose as an organisation. So we have a few sort of key principles and values of an organisation. Like I say, reinvesting that profit into delivering the purpose and the goals of the organisation. We aim to trade sustainably and ethically and locally. We have a commitment to climate change. It's quite challenging for a social care organisation to think about our environmental impact. We value and support the workforce, and we have a value that is about grow ourselves to grow others. So it's investing in our workforce to then invest in the people around them and the individuals and the families that use our services. So we try and function in that democratic way that gives members the choice and control over what the organisation does. And we provide a lot more information than you would if you were in a private business. So we try and also work with co-ops, other social enterprises, other employee-owned businesses. And me and Emma had a conversation earlier this week following her presentation at Congress. And we're putting feelers out. We want to support other local, other national social care organisations. We're very keen to develop links with other social care co-ops. So our ambition is for social care to be an option that's a business beyond profit. So we want businesses to see that social care co-ops can be that solution to the broken system. We're very aware that there are challenges within local authorities, and we want local authorities to see that a values-driven social care business is better than a private business. We're much more flexible, we're much more responsible, we're more responsive and resilient, and we create offers to some of their challenges. So I think Dan mentioned this, we have lower profit margins, we invest our surplus, it goes back into the business. And we felt really strongly 11 years ago, as much as we do now, that actually this is the model that makes the most difference, because when you are a shareholder and a social care worker, ultimately you want to deliver good care to the people who are in receipt of your support. So there's no better way to enable our staff but to give them a share of the business and a voice in how we run, and a reward if we're successful. So a co-op is a really good model that works in social care, but there's very few of us, and it is really important that we think about how do we develop more social care co-ops.
Thank you very much, Lucy. That was a really informative and thorough presentation, so thank you for that. I'll move over to questions now for Lucy. I see there's one from Saxon, so I'll go to you first. Still muted at the moment, Saxon.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes, sorry about that. I got lost. Both these enterprises sound absolutely splendid, and we have this huge problem. But my question is a perhaps more general one that you might also take up, Chair. First of all, how are users represented? Because we talk about doing to people rather than people, and I understand there have been cooperatives that have been user-led as well as worker-led. So I just wonder how they represent users. And the second thing is, I think we're all aware, trade unions have always been a little wary of cooperatives. Are we now getting good cooperation from cooperatives who are able to recommend it to their members to join in a cooperative or a mutual?
Thank you, Saxon. I mean, I'm happy to pass that over to yourself, Lucy, to answer, and then I guess I can come back on the second part of that.
So the first bit, unions. So when we were in the local authority, obviously our union was Unison. Unison were very supportive of our move out. I think they have found the model challenging. We still have joint partnership meetings with Unison, and we still have an arrangement where employees can belong, and we recognise them as the union. We have questioned over the years, what is the need of that Unison membership when actually you have an opportunity to share your views through the shareholder council or directly straight into the board if you're a board member. We think very differently around employee benefits and things like that. So yes, Unison is recognised by us. Your first point about user representation. So Leading Lives is a worker co-op. So obviously our commitment is to our staff, but at the same time we want our users who use our services to have a voice. We have a really strong partnership with the Learning Disability Partnership Forum in Suffolk, and we sit on multiple forums that they have that is developing and leading on the strategy for people with learning disabilities and autistic adults in Suffolk. And we encourage our staff to support customers to advocacy groups. We have representation from advocates in services supporting people to make decisions. So I think for us, the customer voice for adults with learning disabilities has probably developed over the time we've been out of the local authority as well. So they are very supportive of people getting their views back into the organisation. And we're also doing co-production at the moment. So co-production is something that we started doing last year alongside Health Watch. So Health Watch has been helping us develop our co-production strategy. And that is very much about how do we deliver our services, taking into views the taking individuals' views and families' views into what we do, how we do it, how we engage with people.
Great, thank you, Lucy. And I just, you know, add on the trade union side of things. I think it's, you know, it's still a continuing, developing process in terms of understanding the model, you know, how we think it can be beneficial and why we think it is a much better alternative than a lot of the private providers, which both Lucy and Emma have raised the issues with, that kind of 15 minutes here and there, the poor pay and conditions which a lot of staff have in those situations. It really is about, I think, raising awareness of that that difference cooperatives can make to the care recipients and also to the workers themselves. Mike, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, hi Lucy. As a GMB member, is there any reason why you don't really want unison there? You said you don't think that you don't need a union.
No, not at all. I think it's been a changing view over the years, and the view maybe through the divestment programme or in those early years was, would people need unison or union representative, when actually we think about employees differently because they have a say in the organisation, they are a shareholder, but that hasn't changed over time. We still support people to have unison membership. We have unison come in and do marketplace events to raise the awareness of what they can bring. So I think our view of it has changed over time. In the early days, we probably wondered why it would be needed.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mike and Lucy. I believe previously, Paul, you wanted to ask a question? No? Okay, no problem at all. Just looking on the chat. Was there anyone else in the meantime while I look who had a question for Lucy? Ruben?
Yes, it's a question for Lucy. Yeah. So, you spoke about your cooperatives values? Are they directly based upon your members' values? Can the members choose to change them if they wish, basically?
So when we do strategic planning, we do engage with the members or the staff, the workforce, to make sure what the organisation, the direction of the organisation is the right direction. Like I say, the board is completely employee owned. So we have membership sitting on the board that are frontline staff. We have business support staff sitting on the board. We have managers. So we have a real scatter of people who sit on the board and help set the strategy of the organisation. And the whole purpose really has to come back to the co-op principles and the ethos of being a social care, social enterprise. But obviously our main purpose of being who we are is to provide good quality care and support to the people of Suffolk.
Thank you, Lucy. I have a question myself, and I think what I'd really like to hear from yourself and maybe Emma, if she's available still as well, is what do you think you need from an incoming Labour and cooperative government to really help grow the social care co-op sector, and what would really enable the expansion right across the country to all communities?
I know the answer to this one. A huge barrier to cooperative development, growth, and just all the way through is the structural investment restrictions that are in place for cooperative societies. So the development of FCA's guidance, the restriction in the Act, and the kind of restrictions around interest, capital gain, and the FCA's view on what makes a co-op is not actually right. So we've run up against the inability to be able to raise kind of larger, we've raised over £600,000 in community shares, but to be able to raise larger amounts of capital to grow on an area by area basis, because the community shares model, while amazing, is also incredibly resource intensive, and takes away a huge amount from the development of the cooperative itself. So there's, I mean, I have a laundry list, but I had a very therapeutic rant at the Treasury at Co-op Congress about exactly this. And so with the review of the Act, with looking at investment structures for cooperatives and community benefit societies, the incoming Labour could do so much to open that up and to turn what is. So 210 million was invested in co-ops since 1997. 1.4 billion was invested in the whole social enterprise sector in 2021. And that's 1 year compared to over 20 years of co-ops. The numbers are so clear that if we were able to open up those barriers, lift them, then patient capital could flood in, and the for-purpose investors would actually be able to invest in cooperatives. And they can't at the moment, and I have numerous examples of that. So that will change things dramatically for the sector.
Thank you, Emma. Lucy, would you like to come in?
So I think on top of that, I think there's promotion that social care co-ops are an option, and real awareness raising of that. And I think that there's support needed to local authorities to understand social value and how social value in their way that they contract should be pushed harder and weighted more in their contracts. But I also think that there needs to be some consideration around corporation tax, and we have to pay corporation tax for a limited company. I understand that. If we make a profit, obviously, yes, we should. But if we were a charity, and that's something we've looked at over the 11 years, would we be better off being a charity? Which would mean we would no longer be a co-op. Possibly we would be better financially. And for me, that's a really challenging conversation to have in leading lives, because I think that the co-op is the right thing for us to be. But financially, a charity possibly looks much better.
Thank you very much, Lucy. I see Valerie is very patiently waiting with her hand up. So I'll come to you, Valerie. Ask yourself to unmute. Oh, yeah, you're still muted, Valerie.
That better? Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I've recently been in hospital in last October, excuse me, and I couldn't get out because there were no carers. Now, all of you who voted Brexit sent nearly 500,000 workers, many of whom were carers, back to Europe. Now, I had a horrendous experience because I'm old. I'm nearly 93, excuse my throat. I'm nearly 93, and I had an orthopedic problem, but they put me in the old, in inverted commas, crackers section. It was hell. It was the worst 3 weeks of my whole life. Now, how do you recruit your workers? Here in the north, we can't get carers. It's too little money. So it sounds wonderful, and I only wish there'd been a system such as that. But there are hundreds of people in the north trying to get out of hospital, and one of the main problems for the health service is the blockage of beds because they can't get people out. You can't have that problem, or it can't be as bad. So how do you entice people on that very low wage to come and work for you? Thank you.
Thank
Lucy?
you, Valerie. So I think that is a sector-wide problem, and I think social care co-ops are a solution, but social care, I think it's a mixture of things that have happened over the past few years. COVID, I think, has really impacted on people's views about whether they want the responsibility of working in social care. We had quite a, yes, clap for carers happened on a Thursday, the same as it did for the NHS workers. But it has been very challenging to retain workers when actually they could go and work at a supermarket down the road for much more money. So it's about selling the whole vision of what social care means, how you get so much value from supporting people to live the life that they want to live, and that you are enabling them to do what they need to do, whether that's supporting them out of hospital, whether that's supporting them to continue to live in their own home or some other setting. I think that, you know, I don't know what Emma's views on it, but I think it's a challenge whether you're a social care co-op or whether you're a private business. I think for us, possibly, we don't have a lot of private business. Learning disability, there is not personal finance in learning disability. So it is more of a challenge, I would say, than it would be if we were an older person service.
Thank you, Lucy. Just because in the interest of time, we always try and finish these on time. I'm just going to come back to yourself, Emma, and then to yourself, Lucy, for final comments and words, and then we'll wrap up.
This is just before the train leaves. The experience of being stuck in hospital with no way out. A few people that we support have had that experience as well, and it is hellish. It's hellish as an experience. It makes you so much sicker, and it takes you so much longer to recover just through that period of being in hospital, and then not being able to go home. So we had a situation last year where somebody that we support went into hospital with suspected sepsis. The only way that she was going to be allowed out was if her care and support package stepped up to 24 hours for a short period of time. What happened was that the members of her team got together and they worked out who was going to do it. They stepped forward and they sorted out the rota, and it was painful and it was difficult, but they did it, and they did it for the period of time that was needed, and for her to be able to come out of hospital so that she wasn't then in there for any longer than she needed to be. And that was within 24 hours of them saying that, we had that ready and said that we could do it. So people really care about you when they're a member of your team, and when they've chosen to support you, you actually get cared for and cared about like a human being. And the model of kind of throwing people into person after person after person is what is driving inequality. It is driving really appalling kind of health figures around how what social care does for the burden on health, and it is running a lot of mostly women, some men, but mostly women, into the ground. And there is a way to fix it. Like, we just need to do more of this, more cooperation, more focus on a relationship that is happening between the person giving and the person getting, and then the rest really does follow if you just let it.
Thank you, Emma.
So sorry for my experience.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that summing up. Lucy, just a final word.
I think it's very similar to Emma. What Emma said, it's just bring us to the table, have conversations about social care co-ops. We are a good solution. And there was a comment that just put in the chat about what is the cost. The cost varies. We're no more expensive than the neighbouring provider. Local authorities, if you're a local authority provider, you have to sit within their framework prices. So generally we are the same as the person next door who's the private business or the independent. So I think, for me, it's just, let's talk more about social care co-ops when we're thinking about a different way of doing things. Let's just encourage other people's awareness.
Thank you so much, Lucy, and thank you to everyone who's come along this evening. I hope you found it a really interesting, stimulating discussion. And as we can see, I think there's a real bright future for social care co-ops right across the UK. So I'm going to close the session now, but thank you very much for attending. Please do look out for upcoming Co-op Live sessions right across the summer, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you.